With Bitcoin and the broader stock market struggling to find its footing, Moon Boys are right now quivering in their boots, begging the crypto whales to pump their precious coins to infinity and beyond. But are the bulls about to be shocked with a micro pullback to shake out all the new investors? Or are we about to witness a Bobby Blastoff to new all-time highs and beyond? So if you understand, the next few days could get a little bit dumpy. However, Q1 of 2025 is most likely going to be giga pumpy. Hit that like and subscribe. Without any further ado, let's completely, absolutely, and once and for all dump into the charts, where we see the price of Bitcoin right now actually is kind of teeter-tottering between negative and positive on the day. And there's a lot that's gone on in the last few days. There's less than 48 hours until the beginning of Q1 2025. Likely a lot of tax loss harvesting has taken place. Likely a lot of, well, it is, this is a very low liquidity week. In fact, the lowest liquidity week of the entire year. And we only have less than 48 hours left of, and I'm going to just, to be quite honest, this is the least exciting year, the least exciting part of the year, the least exciting week of the year. And it's silly to draw any conclusions from the price action of this week. There's really no conclusions realistically to draw from this week. It's low liquidity. People are still enjoying their holiday break, Christmas, New Year's, all this stuff, all these holidays. This is like the least exciting time to be trading or investing. However, very quickly that switch is going to flip. And that's actually what I want to spend a little bit of time talking about. One of the first things here, we see that, as usual, Michael Saylor on a Monday acquiring with MicroStrategy an additional 2,100 Bitcoin for a little over $200 million, averaging about $97,000 per coin. So yeah, MicroStrategy bought some more Bitcoin. What else is new? We also see Tether has bought over 7,000 Bitcoin, worth over $700 million for its reserves, now owning $7.7 billion in Bitcoin. And the most profitable company in the world, adding more of the world's best reserve asset to its balance sheet. That's pretty big. I've seen a lot of fears lately about Tether and, what's going on with the EU, like Tether being delisted for in the EU. Do I think it's a big deal? No, personally, I don't. I've been in crypto for 8 years. Tether FUD, fear surrounding Tether, I believe is maybe the OG FUD attempt. I believe Tether itself is like the OG of fear in crypto. Well, there's two things. China banning Bitcoin has been that's been going on for 8 years, meaning banning it, unbanning it, banning it, unbanning it. It's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. Other countries also have kind of done the same thing. And the other big OG fear, uncertainty, and doubt mechanism in these markets is Tether FUD, right? People have been saying Tether is going to collapse for as long as I've been invested in crypto. And it's a really good way to try to scare people. But do I think this is the end of the world? No, I don't think it's going to even be, I don't think it's necessarily even worth covering, to be honest. We also see that according to Aporia on X, everyone thinks Q1 will be bullish, so it won't be. However, I've seen this argument so many times, and basically, yeah, being contrarian just for the sake of being contrarian exposes an inflated ego and a lack of experience with the market. You're going against historical patterns. You're claiming this time is different. Do you want to make money or do you want to feed your ego? Basically, I mean, this is the best chart to look at. We see that each one of these, and if I actually zoom in on these, each one of these green lines here is Q1 of the bull market bustiest year. We saw Bitcoin do extremely well in every one of these quarters. And you can see this red line right here is alts versus Bitcoin. And look how well alts do in this Q1 of these giga bull market years. So I'm anticipating that we could see some nice gains for the altcoins very, very soon as we head into what I think is going to be a very positive 2 quarters, at least, of 2025. I think that Q1 is likely to be the most profitable quarter of 2025 and the most profitable quarter of this entire bull market, of this 4-year cycle. So I think we're coming up on the most profitable, lucrative part of this cycle. Q2 as well, I'm a little less confident on, but it's still very likely that could be extremely bullish as well. In my personal opinion, and I could be totally wrong, but I think that the second 2 quarters of 2025 are more likely to not be as pumpy and potentially even be dumpy. Specifically, as we head into summer and fall of 2025, I think that if by that point you haven't taken some profits and you haven't realized some gains, I think that at that point you are at risk of round tripping the cycle. I could be totally wrong, right? Nobody knows for sure. Not a single person on the planet knows for sure. But that's just what I'm going into this with the expectations of the most likely scenario happening. We also see that this post by Follow Us on X, here is a chart of Bitcoin in December of 2023, looking very similar to the chart of Bitcoin in December 2024. This potentially showing us one more little dippy down to sub $90,000 per coin. And actually, I want to talk about another potential scenario right here, where we see that Bitcoin may pull back to the inverted head and shoulders neckline, which is in blue here, before rallying to a new all-time high. But such a pullback could send Bitcoin to sub 80,000 US dollars, another potentially 20% drop from where we are. And there's bearish divergence on RSI also suggesting this is a possibility. And this is not different than anything that I've also been saying over the past couple of weeks, is that we could see Bitcoin pull back here. Okay, we have the 21 week down here, and we have the 100 day down here. It's a very realistic and not even bearish scenario. It's a totally healthy scenario. We also see 2 days ago, a BITUNIX whale has started building his long position again. He's sometimes early, whale says on X, but he's never wrong. And additionally, James Van Straten highlighting this as well. And if we zoom in, you can see BITUNIX whales have been a great indicator of Bitcoin price movements. Whales offloaded 20,000 Bitcoin during the run up in November, and they have yet to add any long since Bitcoin has fallen from 108,000. However, as you can see, that's now changing. We're starting to see that change, which is just historically, and I've seen people use BITUNIX whales as an indicator for, again, basically 8 years. And it's pretty accurate, relatively accurate. And I just personally think that, yes, we've gone down from all-time highs. We are down about maybe right now about 12 or so percent, but so far we've dipped as much as 15% in the last few weeks. And again, I personally, if we get a drop all the way down to this 21 week or the 100 day around 81 or 82, 21 weeks right around 77 or so, basically on average, I'm looking very much to, if Bitcoin goes down to right around 80,000, that's where I'm going to be trying to load my bags as much as I can with any disposable capital that I have. And equally as well, whatever levels altcoins fall to relative to Bitcoin's $80,000 drop is also a really good long position in my opinion. Now, I personally just am not convinced we're going to get a dump that low. I personally think that the market is a little too bullish. I would personally love to see Bitcoin actually drop that much. I just don't think it's the most likely scenario. I don't think it's the most realistic. And I don't think even if we got that, I don't think it would be very long lasting. Meaning, let's say one day you're out eating nachos and chicken fingers with some nice dippy sauce, maybe some hot wing buffalo sauce, maybe some whatever your favorite dippy sauce is, and you chow down on some nuggets and you wash it down with a nice cold juice or potentially beverage of your choice. And then you get back to your place and you look at your computer and you see, wow, Bitcoin has crashed massively, but already got bought back up most of the dump. That is a very likely scenario. So you just want to be careful. You want to have orders set already, like limit orders already set in case a dump like that would happen. But realistically, on those type of flash crashes, those flash dumps, you don't typically have a lot of time to accumulate. You don't have a lot of time to buy unless you already have orders set at those levels. And I just personally believe, this market is very bullish as we head into Q1 of 2025 with a new incoming the most pro crypto administration in the history of the universe. Assuming that Bitcoin was not also existing in other multiverses as well. Nobody knows for sure. That's possible. And with all of that as well, these Bitcoin spot ETFs continuing to dominate. Historically, Bitcoin, every 4-year cycle chart showing us this is exactly when we should be the most bullish, once every 4 years. This, out of every 4 years, what we're about to see over the next few months is historically the most bullish time period of every 4 years. I just think that, if you think this time is going to be different, you really need to get lucky, and you really need to have a really strong case, because I've been in crypto for 8 years, and every single time there's a bull market, there are a lot of people telling us this time is going to be different and we're not going to have a bull market. This time is different. Bitcoin's actually going back to $100. It's going back to $1. It's going back to $0. I have heard that every single cycle, every single year for the past 8 years, and it's never even come close to being true. And could it happen? Sure. Literally anything could happen. I'm not saying it can't happen. The earth could literally explode tomorrow. You could grow a tail, and you could grow wings, and you can, learn how to transform yourself into a butterfly. Maybe. I mean, who knows, right? Technically, anything could happen, but what are the chances that it's going to happen? I think a lot of people just choose to put their heads directly in their butts, way too deeply into their butts, where they squeeze their head too much, and their brain starts having incoherent thoughts. And I think that that's the most likely explanation for why people get bearish on Bitcoin, is they have their heads too far in their butts. We also see this, and that is On-Chain College saying, I wrote this in the Bitcoin Live members last week, with the short-term holder cost basis at about almost $87,000 per coin. He wouldn't be surprised for a short-term test this level. It doesn't need to happen, but he wouldn't be alarmed if we saw a mid $80,000 Bitcoin pullback. His thesis remaining that we go much higher in 2025. Don't be shocked by a pullback to $80,000, he says. If we get a bounce off of the STHCB, which is a short-term holder cost basis in the mid 80Ks, that would be very bullish, according to On-Chain College, and I agree. I don't think that would be bearish at all. And as well, we see this 10 days later, human emotion prevails for Bitcoin on a only 15% correction, with the debt ceiling concluding in a couple weeks, inauguration in a couple weeks, end of year tax selling as well occurring right now, and the Fed leaning hawkish with a pause in January. And look at what's happened with Bitcoin. It is just literally doing the same thing it's always done. Okay. Again, you really have to, for people thinking, for people believing this time is fundamentally different, the odds are very against you. And technically, anything could happen, but it's not the most likely scenario. Now, we also see Bitcoin dominance is, for the past 3 weeks, after falling below this trend line, is trying to, and already had actually a rejection last week as well, but is trying to reclaim the 60 or 58 to 60% dominance range. But it doesn't look like it's doing a great job at this point. Now, I do think Bitcoin is going to be pumping in the next few weeks, so maybe that'll give it a boost up to about 60% or so. But ultimately, I think that Bitcoin and the altcoin markets are going to be performing very well in this upcoming quarter, relatively quickly, in my opinion, towards the middle of January, and especially February and March, I think are going to be pretty positive for the market. If we look on the daily chart, you can see as well, momentum still right now is a little dumpy, but the RSI is setting up itself for a bullish cross as well on the these shorter term charts, and on Bitcoin's weekly chart as well. I mean, there's still plenty of room for a pullback, so that's not a bad thing. The stock market as well, SPX, is also trending down on this very low liquidity week. Again, I don't even want to put too much weight into this week, because there's not a lot of liquidity, and people are not, the last week of every year is not a very serious week. It's not a very indicative week of any trend. It's not very important, is the easiest way to say it. This was also an extremely good year for the US dollar. Is that going to continue? Or are we about to see a turnaround where the US dollar gets completely and ultimately, utterly giga-banged? That is a realistic possibility that would also strengthen the bullish case for Bitcoin. And get signed up with Femex or BITUNIX below if you want to buy Bitcoin, altcoins, or trade. Without any further ado,